What is cohort analysis? If you've ever opened Shopify, if you've ever opened Recharge, Key, or Loop, any of the subscription platforms and seen this colorful table that has like percentages and numbers, and you have no idea what it means, then this video is for you. Because I'm not just gonna tell you there's three ways to read the cohort chart. I'm also gonna show you step by step what they mean and what you can do. And on top of this, I'm gonna walk you through two common scenarios that are extremely relevant for an e-commerce brand. What to do if your retention is poor at the beginning of the journey, meaning people cancel soon after they subscribe to your products, take the discount and run type of behavior, and what to do if your case is slightly more complex. In other words, how can you identify when the true biggest leak in your retention system is. As you may know, my name is George Cavernaros, I run Yocto. We are one of the world's best lifecycle marketing agencies, and it would really mean the world to me if you could subscribe to this YouTube channel. I've just started posting videos, and your support is really gonna mean a lot to me. Let's get started. Okay, let's start with the very basics. What is a cohort? A cohort is simply a group of people who started in the same month. And in e-commerce, when we say started in the same month, we usually mean who placed their first order in the same month. So it's new customers in a specific time window, which is typically monthly. And the reason why I say typically monthly, and in e-commerce we refer to customers, is that the cohort analysis can apply to other contexts as well and have different meanings. It can be different time windows and can be different metrics. As you can see in this example that I have open right here, what we use as our metric is, of course, net sales, but it could be something else. And just to show here, it could be cumulative sales, and then it could be, I don't know, AOV, it could be retention, which is what people typically refer to when they look at customer cohorts. But all of those metrics are simply different ways to look at people grouped by a specific time interval, month in this case, who first entered our brand's universe at the beginning of that interval. So we're always looking at all people that started in November when we're looking at this. And there's actually three ways to look at a cohort. And I'm gonna show you how to do this in Recharge so that you see that it's entirely the same setting as you see on Shopify. By the way, this is a native Shopify report. So if you go to analytics and if you head over to reports and type in customer cohort, you will get this report. It will by default use customer retention rate, but as I showed you, you can view different metrics as well. Okay, so I've opened a totally different brand with totally different technology. In this case, it's Recharge, just to show you that it really is the same as what you have on Shopify natively. The only difference is that in this case, we are looking at subscription customer cohorts, meaning people that pay us in a recurring way. And if that's your use case, you're gonna find this very helpful because what we see here is a cohort of a very well-developed brand. And when you look at this cohort, there's three ways you can gather insights from it. One is, of course, to look at a cohort horizontally. This means in this direction. And when you do this, what you really see is how well you retain customers over time. So you have initially 8,000 new customers, new subscription customers specifically, entering your brand's universe in November. And then by month 0, you've only 84% of them left, which means that they canceled, 16% of them canceled within the first few days, within the first month, really. And then by month 1, you only have 52% of them left, and then 36, and then 31, and then 28, etc. So what this shows you, really, the horizontal view of a cohort is very simple. How well am I retaining customers, right? The second view that you can have, which is the vertical, it goes the other direction, from up to down. It shows you how well your efforts affect the retention of your brand. To be more specific, it shows you how different cohorts perform in the same life cycle month. In this case, if you look at this like this, it always refers to how well does month 0 do, or how well does month 1 do, or how well does month 2 do. And the reason why I say this shows you how well your efforts affect retention is because presumably you're making improvements in the life cycle, and those improvements should, over time, show better retention results. So let's take a look at this example. This is actually one of our clients. They used to have 84% retention by month 0. They are currently at 88%, which is not too bad. It is a pretty big improvement. And then they used to be at 52% by month 1, and now they're at 65%, which is not too bad either, right? Like, it seems like there is a pretty big lift in terms of retention results for the same life cycle month. The last thing you can do, which is actually something that not a lot of people realize, is that you can read the cohort diagonically. And when you read the cohort diagonically, what you see is what's happening in your customer database, in this case subscription database, in the same calendar month. So let's take as an example this month 2 of the November cohort. If I tell it, I'm gonna arrive here, which is actually January, right? So it's month 0 for the January cohort, and it's month 2 for the November cohort, and it's month 1 for the December cohort. It always refers to January. So I can see what, if any, seasonal impact exists and how it affects my cohort separately. And the reason why this is important is because you may have, for example, a big spike in sales come November, or come any other promotional peak that you may be having as a brand. But then you realize that, hey, all of those people that came, they were bargain hunters, they just came for the discount, and they actually have very poor LTV for us. So next time you run a big promo, you have a completely different approach, because ultimately you saw that even though from an acquisition standpoint, that first purchase cohort looked fine when you had that sale, it actually performed horribly over time. If you start thinking about it in this way, you will be able to make much more intelligent decisions as a retention market. Okay, I'm gonna walk you through a real case. This is a real company that went through our sales process recently, and I'm gonna walk you through how to reason through what we call the month 0 churn problem. And what this is very simple. It essentially describes customer behavior that looks like this. They find your brand, they see that you have a bigger discount when somebody subscribes, so they're like, okay, I'm gonna get a discount, and then I'm gonna cancel right away. And you can see this very clearly here. They have 79% retention by month 0. This means that 1/5, that's crazy, 1/5 of their subscribers are just grabbing the discount and running away. And this is a very big problem, because if they cancel right away, they won't experience the product's value proposition over time, which means that they are unlikely to stick to the brand over time. And it also means that the company loses unnecessary margin. So how would you reason through this very common problem? You would reason through it in the following way. Number one, you would think through, when does this decision take place? And obviously it takes place before they buy. So it doesn't have to do with how the retention system is set up, because by the time they buy, they've already made the decision to cancel. Right? They literally cancel before they even receive the product in many cases. So what you would do is you would take your acquisition team and you would sit down and create an offer that is meaningfully different than the one-time purchase for your subscription customers. And it would be meaningfully different, not just in terms of savings, but also in terms of added value, particularly added value unlocked over time. So instead of saying subscribers get 20% off and that's it, you would maybe have an offer that unlocks certain benefits over time. Free gift on your first renewal or something along those lines. We've worked with companies that have done this successfully when it comes to physical products, and we've done this with companies that have even included digital products, things that other can't get unless they subscribe. So that's how you would reason through this. And then from a lifecycle standpoint, of course, you could address the behavior itself. That would be a supplement to fixing the subscription offer, because that, of course, that would be the main lever here. But from a lifecycle standpoint, what you could do is address the behavior right away. Something like a flow that triggers, telling them, okay, you grab the first time offer, that's a smart move. Now here's how you can actually benefit from the product. And then make a case for why consistency is the key. And then using it once or twice or for a month is not gonna do anything. And that actually your best customers see results after 3 or 4 or 5 months, or whatever the case may be. And that's how you address the month 0 churn problem. Okay, let's take a look at a totally different case that has totally different dynamics. In this case, the brand has 90% retention by month 0, which is, I would say, very good based on what we see. Typically, it's lower than that. And then what would usually be the case, which is a drop from month 1 to month 2, doesn't seem to be there. Like they are at 76%. And I'm looking at the weighted average because that's like the best way to understand what's happening and like exclude potential seasonal dynamics. They go from 76 to 71, which is pretty good, right? Like it's just 5% drop. So they have an amazing retention performance. So how would you approach this? What should you do? The default thought that most e-commerce marketers have, there's reasons for this. Of course, I want to be fair to everybody, but the default thought is that let's fix our post-purchase flow. Like, let's improve what our like transactional emails look like, and then maybe add more value and all that. And of course, that's good because usually the issue is very early into the life cycle, and by improving onboarding, you can affect in a positive way customer retention. But the thing is, some cases that's not the case. Like in this case, they have amazing retention at the very beginning of the life cycle. So for me, as a strategist, to look at this and then propose, we need a new post-purchase flow, or like we need to add more value as we onboard new it's not a good use of time. And I'm being kind here. So what I should rather do is look at my cohort and identify where's the biggest drop. And of course, you want to do this in percentages. You're also going to do this like by actual absolute figures, right? But suppose that then you would see, okay, the issue seems to be between month 2 to month 3. So we have a lot of people canceling in as they transition to month 3, which in this case does seem to be the case at a glance. Now, what do you do? Do you create month 3 flow and just a discount, or like what would you do? No, what you would do is create a report through recharge, and you would need 2 data points. You would need data points on when people start their subscription and when does their subscription end. And you can create this through Recharge's port building functionality, or if you don't have access, if you are probably like an agency or a freelancer, maybe you don't have full complete access, you can just ask Recharge support and they're gonna do this for you. And then I'm gonna show you what to do. Okay, you've now created your report and it probably looks a little bit like this. I'm gonna make it big so that we can see the entire thing. So we have when did the subscription start, yeah? And then when did the subscription stop? And then you can, of course, do this for specific time windows, right? And of course, this is 2025, so no video would be complete without an AI prompt. So I'm gonna show you an AI prompt that you can copy and paste and do the analysis that I'll show you. So you basically take this and then you say, my goal is to create a report that analyzes on which days within the first 60 days or any other window that you have, users most often cancel. And this will help me know when to time my initiatives that will impact churn. And then you have essentially the rest of the information, and what you get is something that looks a little bit like this, right? So you have the days listed out, and then how many cancellations are happening, and then what percentage of the total group do those cancellations represent. And in this case, what we see is that like half or like 40% approximately of them are happening in this time window, yeah? And coincidentally, this is when the billing reminder gets sent. Probably we need to rework that. But in another case, you might see that it happens on a totally different time window. And the whole point that I'm trying to make here is that the timing of the initiatives that you take really should be informed by data. The customer cohort shows you where to focus, and then you need to zoom even deeper to identify the exact time frame and time window where you should take initiatives to combat churn. What type of initiative you should take obviously has a lot to do with the financial picture of your company, the brand constraints that you may have, other initiatives that you may already have on the pipeline. So I can't really tell you, okay, people are churning on day 37, so you should do X, Y, Z. Even though if you do reach out to me, I will be happily able to take a look and give you more detailed advice on what to do. But I hope this was helpful, and I hope it at least showed you why cohort analysis is such a powerful tool. There's 3 ways to look at things, and just so that you remember them, I'm going to repeat them once again. If you look at retention horizontally, you are able to see how one specific cohort is retained over time. And then, of course, if you look at the average of all of the months, you can get a very clear picture of how, as a brand, you are retaining customers over time. If you look at retention cohorts vertically, what you can see is how are you having an impact, if any, on specific stages in the life cycle, like how does my efforts affect month 1 retention or month 3 retention and so on. And then diagonally, you can see what the specific calendar month looked like across your customer cohorts, which typically is helpful for evaluating what, if any, impact do seasonal events, promotions, and dynamics as a whole, like it might be something that's related to politics or like, I don't know, the economy, are affecting your customer subscription. I hope this is helpful, and I hope you take the time to apply this. Remember, there's two main scenarios. One is that this information passed through 1 year and will exit the other, which means you might say it's helpful info, but then you don't do anything with it. And the other is that you take at least one thing that you learned in this video and that you try to apply it for your own brand. And overwhelmingly, if you do the latter, you're going to get much better results. If you found this helpful, please be sure to subscribe and be sure to share this with people that might also find it helpful. This is one of the very first videos I'm publishing, but I promise you this will be one of the best resources that are in the world about e-commerce, retention, lifecycle, and overall subscription-based marketing. So thank you for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next video.